Steph.
And I'm Joel.
And welcome to Framed
Canvas Cuffs.
and Other Stuffs.
Season 2, baby.
Woo!
We're back. We're back. Can you believe it?
Bolé-a-doo.
Olé adieu.
Oh.
Enjoy the episode.
Hello, Joel.
Guess who's back in the house?
He's click-clacking about.
Click-clacking about. Da-ba-da-da-da-da-da-da. Frame the podcast season 2.
Woo!
Woo!
We
The
did
squeakle.
it. The squeakle. We did it. We made it to season 2.
We did it. We survived.
We survived. How was your summer holidays, summer break, Joel?
Look, not going to lie. I've been challenged. I've been tested. I've been through trials and tribulations since the year has started. Not loving it so far, TBH, but
2025.
I'm optimistic, mainly because, and I'm not going to harp on this because no one wants to hear about someone who's like sick complaining, but I've been essentially sick since the clock struck 12 on January 1st,
You turned into a pumpkin.
Jesus Christ was like, oh, you know what? Let's give him a challenge.
Let's see if he can face this year.
Look, I've been dealing with, tonsillitis, a few other things going on. Really threw me for 6. I've always had like sensitive tonsils and whatever, so I finally got a referral to get them out,
Oy.
which is a big deal when you're an adult because it's a bit more of a procedure, it takes a bit more time to recover, but
Yeah.
I'm like, get them out.
It's
And
time.
they do it with lasers and stuff now. It seems all whatever, but they're just so sensitive, and I'm just like, I can't do
deal
it
with it anymore.
because when you get tonsillitis, it like poisons your whole body and it just affects everything.
You can't.
So I was like bedridden. I can't tell you how many episodes of Bob's Burgers I watched because it was the only like comfort show that I could handle. But so I got all the things. I got the like, the fever, the throwing up, the can't swallow, can't talk.
Your
cough.
tonsils were trying to kill you.
I was
The
being
call was
poisoned from the call was coming from inside the
house.
body. But I tell you what, the worst thing was.
Okay.
So the medication I was taking, I had a bit of a reaction to.
Yeah.
I had the hiccups for 2 days straight.
What?
And when I tell you, I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. Having the hiccups for 2 days straight. The only time I wasn't hiccuping was when I fell asleep. I would wake up and if I would move slightly, it would start again.
What? How is that even possible?
So something to do with the potassium. I think it's the potassium in the antibiotics that I was taking mixed with probably like, the other medication I was on or whatever. And for some reason, it just gave me chronic hiccups.
Oh my God.
To the point where I was just like, after a full day of it, I was like, is this my life now?
Just for the rest of your life, you have to live with hiccups?
Am I going to be someone who has the hiccups for the rest of their life? I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I could go on like that.
Imagine literally hiccuping forever.
If someone said to me, if a witch came up to me and was just like, I'm going to curse you with hiccups forever, but you'll live a fine life, but you're going to have the hiccups forever.
I'd say,
be like, you know what? Maybe
take me
throw me
out.
off a cliff instead.
Burn me at the stake.
If a witch came up to me and said, I will take these hiccups from you, but I'm going to have to cut off one of your toes,
You'd do it
I would do it.
in a heartbeat.
In a heartbeat.
Were they aggressive hiccups or just like...
Yes. And they were like hurting my chest. Like oh my God, it sucked so hard. I was so happy when they stopped.
Because obviously you have a partner, Joel, named Lachlan. How did he deal with you hiccuping all day?
Oh, he didn't. He was in the other room. I was sequestered to the living room. He didn't want to catch anything.
Yeah,
so
fair.
I was in quarantine essentially going insane. And I'd think they'd be finished.
And then
I'd think about it and then I'd hiccup again.
oh, nah, not for me.
Brought tears to my eyes.
Oh, well,
I would cut off a toe.
What about a full foot?
If it was hiccups for the rest of your life, or I'm going to cut off your foot.
You're losing the foot.
I'm losing the foot.
No hiccups for you.
No, I'm not even joking. I would get a bionic foot. I can work around that. Hiccups?
I can't work around that.
I can't work around that.
Yeah, okay.
That's all I'll say. because I don't want to harp on about how sick I've been and yada, yada, yada. It's like when someone talks about their dreams, like you're just like, you don't want to hear about it.
Yeah. Dreams aren't that interesting.
But I do not wish chronic hiccups on anyone.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe Trump. But other than that, yep. How have you been?
No hiccups here.
That's all from me. I've literally just been sequestered, sick, angry, sad, and now I'm kind of coming out of it.
Yeah.
Got a little bit of a tickle. I've got a little throat lozenge in right now. So if you can hear me going like, that's it's for the better. It's better than me. Better than me doing grandpa coughs all the way through our first episode of season 2.
Well, thanks for coming in still and doing the job.
Oh, I wouldn't miss it, babe.
I was going to ask you, my start off was going to be like, what's your going into this year? What's your word? What's your vibe? But I don't know if now is the time to ask or.
My vibe was, before all this nonsense happened, budget more.
Ooh.
Don't hesitate. Mm-hmm. And create more. They're my 3.
Ooh, more.
Yeah.
Don't hesitate. What's the hesitation one?
So the things that I've been thinking about doing for ever and ever and ever that I never get around to are the things that I want to be actioning this year.
Ooh.
Which I won't announce. I'll wait till I do them. I'll wait till I do them and then I'm like, that's one of the things that I've been putting off.
Yes.
Because if I announce it and then I never do it, it's kind of like, eh.
Yeah. Everyone's like, oh, he didn't do it.
Yeah.
We get to the end of the year, you're like, sorry.
Oh, yeah. Because then I've put it out into the universe and then it's just a thing that I've never done.
Yeah. And sometimes it doesn't necessarily hold you accountable.
Art related. Like it's essentially art related.
I love it. Mine is very similar, like just creative limitless. Like it's like just create as much as I can this year and try and free myself up with as much time to just do. Do.
Are you going to give yourself any like boundaries this year? I know you've been super busy and working a lot. Is there anything you're going to kind of like cut back on or anything like that? Or are you just going to go balls to the wall?
I think I'm just going to go balls to the wall. So if I say like, sorry, can't do that, it's probably because I'm at home making stuff. But I also want to try and go and see more things. So one of my goals this year, because I don't really go to the movies. Like the movies. See more movies.
I love talking about movies.
My goal is to go to at least one movie a month. That's it.
Yep.
Like it's not a big goal, but I haven't been doing that at all. And we started the year off with going to see Conclave.
Yes.
And it was
heard great things about that.
10 out of 10 movie. Loved it. And the acting was great. The dialogue was minimal. I've said to you before, but if you liked Doubt, the movie Doubt.
One of my faves.
I have such
doubt.
So if you like that movie, you'll like Conclave. That was my first movie of the year. We'll see what's next.
Mine was Nosferatu.
Oh, what were your thoughts? What were your feelings?
Visually stunning, costumes, sound design, cinematography, just delicious. Robert Eggers, who's one of my favorite directors. Well, he's directed one of my favorite movies, I think I'll say, because there have been other movies that he's done that I'm not crazy about. Yeah, it was really good. Just a bit, it drags on a little bit with the pacing. I don't think the ending was climactic enough for me, but it was a really well-made movie.
Love that.
Yeah, and I went on a really hot day, so it was like nice to be in like watching a movie about like cold England
times. Just being like, brr. I love. Yeah. Very good.
Yeah. Are we still doing recommendations?
Yeah. I mean, my recommendation was going to be Conclave, but what's your recommendation?
I went to the Jurassic World exhibition.
Yes.
The other week. I got to tell you, I think it's still on for a while, but by the time this episode's released, it might be finished. I'm not too sure. Look it up.
You've got Google.
Yeah.
Google it.
It was like Universal Studios Disney levels of like the animatronics and whatnot of the dinosaurs that are there was so well done. It's in Brunswick. It's in this like big warehouse, and you walk through. There are people who are like the park rangers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They take you through. they take you through each room where there's a different dinosaur and they tell you about the dinosaur and all that kind of stuff. They act like it's all real.
Yeah.
It's really, really fun. Not the best for super young kids.
Bit scary.
Because it's a bit scary, especially once you get to the velociraptors and the Tyrannosaurus Rex. It was quite funny because I went with Lachlan and the people who are obviously like hired as the park rangers and stuff like that. They're kind of actors and stuff who do things all around Melbourne. And Lachie knew one of them. And he takes you through the Tyrannosaurus enclosure.
Yeah.
And then like, you know, in Jurassic Park, how like the Tyrannosaurus gets out or the security stops working or something. That happens while you go through the exhibition.
Oh, yes.
And the park ranger's just like, oh my God, oh no, the Tyrannosaurus has escaped. I have to be honest with you guys. I'm not a big fan of dinosaurs. I think I chose the wrong profession. And so they're doing all this being like so extra and it's quite funny.
There's something about the like Australiana acting voice where you can really, it always comes out and it's like, oh no. Like it's like we kind of lose a little bit of our just regular accent, but we get, oh no, I've got to see Nosferatu.
And he was calling the Tyrannosaurus' name was Tyra. So it's just like, Tyra, stand back, stop. It was great.
You're giving me very Mr. G vibes.
Yeah,
no, Jessica, don't get involved with drugs.
It was very Mr. G vibes, but like the whole time there was like these 2-year-olds just like screaming bloody murder because it was just too much for them.
Too much. They couldn't handle it. Well, if you like
but it was great. I dressed up in Jurassic Park drag. I wore my wide-brimmed hat and my khaki shorts and my shirt.
Cute. Yeah. You got in theme.
I did get in theme.
I love it. Was anyone else in theme? Or
no.
Oh no.
But they appreciated it.
Yeah. And you know what? I feel like we should all be dressing in theme more.
Bit of fun. Why not? Your inner child.
Yes, and life's
Nurture
too short.
your inner child for the love of God.
Just do it, please. Joel's word of advice for 2025.
Yes.
Nurture your inner child. Very good.
Dance like no one's watching.
Alrighty, Joel. Should we head into the first story of the year?
Let's do it. I'm excited.
I've started off with a heavier one at the start of the year, and now I think about it and I'm like, okay, we're really getting into a bit of a heavier one. But
no, I'm ready to learn. I'm ready.
Promise my second one will be a bit more lighthearted.
No, I'm ready to learn. I'm a little sponge. Just ready to soak up some info.
The year is 1908. Picture this. A young man, just 18 years old, arrives in the heart of Vienna, a city buzzing with creativity and sophistication. His mother has recently passed away, and though grief weighs heavily on him, he clings to a singular dream, to become an artist. I know. His days
Tag yourself.
The dream. His days are spent sketching endlessly, his fingers smudged with charcoal, his mind filled with the grandeur of joining his peers at the Academy of Fine Arts. But by the fall of that year, his dream hits a wall. For the second time, the Academy rejects him.
Poor bugger.
Poor guy. No worries, right? He presses on, selling delicate watercolour scenes to tourists and locals. By 1909, his modest earnings allow him to move out of a homeless shelter he's been living in and start a life of his own. The life takes a turn. He leaves Vienna for Munich, and where his sketchbooks start gathering dust. Politics starts to take its place. When World War I breaks out, he enlists in the army. Slowly but surely, his dream of being an artist fades away and is replaced by something darker.
I have a feeling I know where this is going.
You might.
Happy New Year.
And Joel, here's where things get chilling. This young man who dreamed of painting masterpieces never made it as an artist. Instead, he became one of the most infamous figures in history. His name was...
You want me to say it?
Oh.
We talk about Adolf Hitler in our first episode of 2025.
Like I said, I did it. And then I was look, we're talking a little bit about him. We're going to talk a little bit about after World War II. So I promise it's not as dark as it seems. There is a little, we're not
Me at the start, I'm like, poor bugger.
Poor little guy.
Oh, there could be 100 people in the room. You just need one person to believe in you. Hitler.
Well, Hitler. His rejection didn't just alter his life, but changed the trajectory of art and history forever. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about the damage that was caused to the art world due to Hitler and the recovery of the Nazi plunder after World War II.
His name sounds like a swear word.
Hitler.
Like when you say it, it's kind of like, oh, are we allowed to say that?
Are we allowed to talk about it?
Yeah.
This is going to be quite a heavy episode. We're not going to go into like the Holocaust and things like that.
Oh, I'm super interested in what we're about to discover.
We are going to talk about the art side of things because it's not necessarily the prominent part when you talk about World War II. It's a little bit more like, this is a nice side story. There is obviously a lot of interesting facts around there, but we're not going to like talk about too much his politics, what's happened. I
think we're a little bit aware of where he went with all of that kind of stuff.
He's not a great guy.
No.
Before we jump in, Joel, would you like to see some of Hitler's artworks?
Actually, yes. And I don't think I've ever seen anything that he's produced.
I've got 3 for you.
He did this?
He did this. So the reason why he was why he was rejected from art school was because he was not seen as a visionary. More so, he was just a good artist who could create like nice landscapes and things like that.
Yeah. I mean, there's like some technical fault, but pretty picture. If only that art school accepted him. There could have been a whole different, that's the butterfly effect.
That's a sliding doors moment.
That's sliding doors.
Who'd have thought?
What would have happened to art school Hitler?
Yeah.
Am I still going across?
Yeah, there's 3. So this one's a building that he obviously did. And I think like technically it's just a good painting. Like,
I mean, it's a building.
It's a building. It's got good line work, but there's no creativity at all.
Yeah, there's no soul behind it. It's just a...
Like if you had to explain that painting to someone who couldn't see it, what would you say?
It's literally just a picture of a pretty accurate picture of the building.
See, not much more to it.
Like, it's not evoking anything in me.
You don't look at it and go, wow, I feel inspired.
Yeah.
So since the war, there sometimes...
Like hotel art, like you'd see at the Best Western or something like that.
Exactly.
In one of your rooms.
So a lot of his art since the war has kind of trickled in, and there's been a lot of questions of whether you should sell it, that kind of thing, but it can go up for auction. It's anything that had like any kind of Nazi paraphernalia couldn't be sold, but anything that he's done that's just like a building can be resold. Yeah. There's been a few things that come up for auction. I don't know who's bought them, where they've gone, but yeah, things have sold since his rise to power and fall from grace, I guess.
Who would buy that?
Oh, people buy.
I guess.
People buy things.
Yeah.
And yeah, people buy things. I don't think I'd like to own one.
No. Where does the money go?
Yeah, I think.
To his, like he wouldn't have an estate.
No, I think it goes to just whoever owned it at the time. So it's like if that person's a Nazi sympathizer, you're essentially lining the pockets of someone.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, it's strange. But then someone might just have it and was like, oh, grandpa fought in the war and now I've got this painting.
Yeah,
and why wouldn't I sell it? Like, you know. Anyway, so that's his paintings.
Yeah.
Very
Not
nice.
much to say.
Not much to say. They're nice.
They're nice.
Moving on. We're going to skip forward a little bit. So he's started to take power. He's gotten into his political movement. He's created he's part of the Nazi Party. So during their time in power, the Third Reich stole over 20% of Europe's art by the end of World War II.
Yeah.
So you don't actually think about it until you're like, oh my God, yeah, you sure did. That during this war especially, he would go to certain countries and go, this is what I want. Yep. This is what I want to steal.
I think we talked about that in a previous episode.
Yes, we did mention it briefly in a previous episode that he was about the art. And being like this kind of, he thought of himself as this like culture cultivator and like when the war finished, he was going to create all of these different culture hubs, which is an interesting, amongst other things, but an interesting thing to have.
He had a lot of very complex, kind of conflicting.
We get to the end of this episode and we're like, not so bad, right?
But to be the way that he is, but also respect art and culture.
Yeah. Keep in mind, he was respecting very Aryan art and culture, like very white, very religious.
Well, yeah.
So it's like he didn't see modern art or if anything had been painted by someone of, any kind of different background or ethnicity, he would have been like, created like as bad as it sounds, like created by savages type vibe. A lot of the masters at the time were white.
Yeah.
It made sense that he liked those kinds of artworks, I guess.
Yeah.
So in September of 1933, the Nazis created the Reich Chamber of Culture, which is a governing body that dictated the production of art, music, film, theatre, radio, and writing in Germany. So although it was creating all this art and culture, it was very much propaganda. This wasn't just a creative oversight committee, it was part of a larger plan to shape and control every aspect of German society. The Nazis believed art wasn't just decorative, it was a tool to define societal values and even influence the direction of a nation. So they linked modern art with democracy, which is concepts that they despised, and used the association to discredit and ridicule modern artistic movements.
Right.
So they were all about the art, but very specific.
Yeah.
So in 1933, Nazi officials were already staging what they called a chamber of horrors and an exhibition of shame to mock modern art. So this is really weird.
Chamber of horrors.
I know. It sounds so much scarier than it is. I think of like those crazy haunted, like not haunted, but those crazy like Christian murder houses they set up when they're like, come in here, like, and that's what I picture.
Or it sounds like a ghost train at the Melbourne show.
Yeah, I
Chamber of horrors.
Exhibitions of shame. Anywho.
You just go through its modern art.
One of the most infamous exhibitions was called Degenerate Art, which was in Dresden first, and then it toured across Germany, and it was inviting people to come in, ridicule and scorn the works that did not align with the regime's narrow vision. This is weird because they're showing off modern art and taking it around the country to show it off, but it's to come in and like jeer at it and be like,
yeah. But everyone who attends has to hate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
they can't be like, oh, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
They have to be like, oh, toy.
Well, yeah, pretty much. Very weird.
A strange idea.
I know.
Yeah.
They're doing some weird stuff at this time in Germany. So while Hitler publicly condemned modern art, he adored older classical works. And during the war, his obsession with art and collection reached staggering levels. So this kind of brings us to the topic of today, which is actually talking about the unsung heroes of this kind of recovery mission, which they're known as the Monuments Men, which was a movie, which was turned into a movie.
Rang a bell.
Yeah, so it was turned into a movie, which is based on a true story, would you believe? So these individuals risked everything to retrieve stolen masterpieces and protect centuries of cultural heritage from being lost forever. We're going to kind of dive into a bit of the story around how they safeguarded, all of this art that had been lost or stolen during the war. Because when you think about it, what Hitler did was one of the biggest art heists in history because he literally stole 20% of Europe's art in a few years, which is insane.
And people were hiding art pieces and stuff like that, weren't they?
Yeah.
So they wouldn't be taken.
Yeah. So
all these like famous art pieces and stuff like that were just in regular people's homes. Is that right?
For some things we'll just never know, which is crazy. So let's talk a little bit about the Monuments Men, shall we?
Yes.
1943, so we are a few years towards the end of the war, the official end of the war. And deep underground in a mine shaft, a small group of men walk cautiously, their path illuminated only by the dim glow of their lamps. It had taken months to locate this hidden place, a labyrinth hundreds of kilometres below the surface. Above them are the distant rumble of bombs that echoes a stark reminder of the war raging on overhead.
100 kilometres below the surface?
Yeah, they're down there in the mines. These mines, I tell you what,
That is deep.
Deep down
That is
underground.
deep.
So when I'm going to show you a few pictures of these mines, but like when you see them, they are like cities underground. I just did not expect to see this kind of,
Wow.
yeah,
Hollowed earth.
hollowed earth.
Damn. I'm just picturing it. And now I'm picturing like little mole people living down there.
Yeah, pretty much. These guys become little mole people.
Like in Cuba, how people live there
Underground because it's
they
so hot.
have the opal mines and stuff like that, and it's so hot there that they live underground in these like little rock houses.
Yes, and like I feel like there's like one room that's above ground level and everything else is underneath, so it just looks like these tiny little
Kind of
huts.
interesting. I want to stay at a little Airbnb there and like live like a Cubapedian for a bit.
Cubapedians right in. What's it like?
Jeez, it's hot.
Wow, it's sweltering.
Yeah.
I'll just duck down.
I'll just duck down into my little cave.
Little mole people.
Yeah.
So cute.
What if we get Wi-Fi?
Yeah. What's the phone signal like down there?
Yeah.
Got a router? What are you doing? Satellite? So the men whisper about the dangers of booby traps hidden in the shadows, collapsing tunnels, and the damp air clings to their skin, threatening the treasures they hope to find.
You get moldy.
Moldy. Then one of them stumbles. His boot hits something solid. The group freezes. They shine their lamps to the ground, and there it is, a discovery. The first of many they would make, revealing the sheer and unfathomable scale of the Nazis' looting operation. This group of men, known as the Monuments Men, did include a few women. They were just called that at the time. They were a group of fine art, like historians, archivists, all that kind of thing. And they were established in 1943 under President Roosevelt, and they were US citizens, most of them.
Okay.
So they were sent in to catalogue, recover, and return the priceless treasures to the Nazis. No, treasures that the Nazis had been stealing for over a decade, and were going to prevent the destruction for the rest of the war of these big monuments, bridges, that kind of thing. Because there was like, in Italy, there was bridges that like Da Vinci had helped create that had been destroyed from the war. So their mission was to be like, okay, we're going to try and like bomb this area to get rid of, German soldiers. However, let's try not to bomb this area because it will destroy this monument.
I wonder if the plan was for them to bring it back to the States.
Well, apparently not.
Yeah.
So apparently this was a goodwill gesture, and it was because what was happening is Nazis were starting to retreat, and the Allies were coming in and starting to kind of take back over kind of forcing the Nazis' hand. What was also happening, which we don't really get into, is that Syria was also coming in. So it was kind of like this three-way battle of like who could get this stuff. And what the Americans wanted to do was make sure that they got to the art first, so they could return it to where it belonged, especially with
That's good.
like the soldiers as well. Like some soldiers might go in and help themselves to some stuff because, why not? So it was all about just trying to keep it where it belonged, and it didn't get into other people's hands once the Nazis kind of gave it all away.
Oh, well, that's nice.
That's nice, isn't it? As the Nazi regime began to crumble, their forces retreated across Europe, and they left behind kind of like this legacy of looted art. It became the monumental task of the Monuments Men to recover these stolen treasures. But it wasn't just a matter of finding misplaced paintings. There was also so immediately you go, yep, the Nazis went in and they took these things from museums. But there was also what the Nazis did when the war was starting up, was they would find Jewish collectors and dealers and would coerce them into selling these beautiful masterpieces for less than, or surrender them instead of getting sent to a concentration camp.
Oh.
Yeah, so a lot of private dealers and things would be like, hey, give us your shit.
Here's
or we'll
your
send.
ultimatum.
Yeah, they threatened a lot of people, which I didn't even think about.
Yeah.
Of course you would.
Yeah.
And then what happened was that the market started to change because a lot of these Jewish collectors all of a sudden needed money. What's the first thing you sell? You sell your artwork and it floods the market, but you're selling them at such like a cheap price because you're just trying to get some money to get yourself out of this hellhole, essentially, which is, as bad as it sounds, what's going to happen in LA with property. Like it's what happens when there's a devastation. Like people are like, I just need money. I need it quick. How do I get it? All right. It changes the market really quickly.
Currently, as we're recording this, the LA fires are happening. Yeah. I think they're maybe dying down a little bit, but all of that stuff is going on at the moment. So by the time this comes out, hopefully
it's not on fire anymore.
It's not on fire anymore.
Okay, so at the same time that the Nazis swept across Europe, countries scrambled to protect their cultural heritage. So a lot of the times when the Nazis invaded countries, they would move artworks and hide them away, which you mentioned earlier. So a good example of this is the Mona Lisa, Miss Mona, back again.
Back for season 2.
She's back. She was moved and relocated 6 times during the war to ensure that she didn't end up as part of Hitler's plundered collection. Because obviously that was like a real...
We didn't want Hitler getting his hands on Mona.
No, and you know what? He probably really wanted her too.
Yeah,
he was like,
would've.
God, give me that Lisa.
Was this prior to her being stolen?
This was after.
Yeah, I was going to say. So she'd
already been stolen.
She was super famous.
She was super famous.
Yeah.
People knew her.
Because she wasn't as famous before she was stolen.
Correct. Yeah. Season 1, episode 1, if you want to hear that story.
Learning so much.
Look at it. We're going to have
so many fun facts. So many things to talk about.
You know what? When you go to a dinner party.
When you're at a dinner party, when you're having a coffee with a friend.
You go, did you know?
Did you know this?
Exactly. The Monuments Men didn't just have to outwit the Nazis, they also had to contend with the chaos of war, so ensuring Allied soldiers didn't loot or destroy any treasures in the process. And their job didn't just end with recovery, they had to meticulously catalogue each piece and ensure it was returned to its rightful owner, which was a daunting challenge, especially with they estimate about 1,000 hidden sites of stolen art to uncover.
Wowzers.
So they had their work cut out for them. It was kind of about restoring history and kind of restoring the balance of things. Let's talk about who the Monuments Men were. And if you flick to the next photo, you'll see them as well. So the Monuments Men aren't average soldiers. They were museum curators, art historians, turned wartime detectives. Among them ranked some key players who led in the charge. One was George Stout. He was an art conservation expert who had also served in World War I. So he was, I suppose, how everyone at home can picture him, he was played by, I believe, George Clooney in the movie.
Yes.
So you can kind of see that vibe. And then there was also a man by the name of James Romier. He was an art historian from the Met.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So they knew.
Do you know what's strange? When you see pictures from this period of time, you're not used to seeing people with big grins on their face. And this guy on the far right has the big, sweet, lovely smile. And you're used to people being like quite deadpan when they get their photos taken. So it's very strange seeing someone with like a big cheesy grin getting their photo taken so long ago. So
in April 1945, they began to uncover the scale of Nazi plundering because they found what was their first big mine find, which was the Siegen mine. Siegen mine. So if you flick to your next photo, underground there was these huge mines which were just filled with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of artworks.
Creepy and so claustrophobic and be that far under the earth.
Yeah. It's haunting.
It is.
So the reason why Hitler started to hide all of these masterpieces in mines was because he was worried that they were going to get bombed.
Yeah.
So he was also trying to protect this artwork, but just for very different reasons.
So
all of this artwork actually got quite well preserved during the war because both parties kind of cared about it, which is an interesting thing to kind of think of. So after they found the Siegen mine, just days later, they discover a salt mine, which was filled with over 400 paintings.
Oh.
This was all filled with artifacts, paintings, and like bags and bags and bags of gold.
Wow.
Joel,
Crazy.
describe what you're seeing to the people.
Huge underground, almost looks like a big underground warehouse filled with bags, hundreds and hundreds of bags of goodies.
I saw photos and I'm not sure if it's ever, like some of these mines I think you can go and visit now and they kind of create this, you can go in and go down. I don't know if I'd like that, but you can go down and see, especially in the last mine that we're going to talk about, you can go and see where they kept all this stuff and
I
they
would
kind
like
of
to go see
set that up.
Yeah.
Including not only gold bars, which you can see pictured with in the bags, there was also, we know this, that the Nazis would also take gold wedding rings of people and even teeth, gold teeth, and they would keep all of this stuff to melt down from
Schmelt.
So it was part of the Nazi campaign that if you were in a concentration camp and you had any gold on you, it would be ripped from you or off your body. So so a lot of gold teeth were found in this find as well, which
they wouldn't have been delicate with taking out those gold teeth.
No. Then came the most storybook-like discovery. So if you flick to the next photo, this is sorry, Germany, I'm butchering this, Neuschwanstein Castle, which, Joel, how does this look?
Beautiful castle with lots and lots of storage thingies in it.
Yeah. So this was a discovery that was helped along by Rose Valland, a French art historian who had been tracking what was going on with the Nazis and been a spy for a lot of it for most of the war. So she kind of was like, made herself this spy to be like, this is where all the art is going. I'm going to keep track of it because at some point we're going to need to know this. So she helped find this castle, and hidden in this castle, because it was so large, there was over 21,000 pieces of stolen art.
Wow.
And 2 entire rooms filled with gold.
Wow.
So if you flick to your next photo, you'll see this was one of the rooms that was filled with statues, documentation, like all of this stuff that...
Wait, this one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was one of the rooms in the castle. So just piled high, but almost to halfway up the ceiling.
Yeah.
With things that they deemed as treasures. The true find, however, besides 21,000 pieces of art in this castle, was one thing about the Nazis is they love to take notes, and they are meticulous note takers.
Okay.
Which is such a strange thing to know about Nazis. They've got receipts. And within this castle, they found over 20,000 meticulously kept records detailing where the Nazis had stolen artworks and where they had stolen them from and moved them to. So essentially it was like finding a blueprint to a decade of cultural devastation.
Right.
So the Monuments Men had a man in it. He had fled Germany when the war started, and he'd come back to help them with this kind of project. And so he had to sit there and start to translate all of this German
Go through all of it. Yeah.
And then there's a lot of art going around. There is a man by the name of Hermann Göring.
Goring, probably?
Yeah. Hermann Göring. So he's one of Hitler's top henchmen. He made it his mission. He was a bit of he wanted to compete with Hitler. Like Hitler was getting all the good stuff. And he was like, no, I want some good stuff too.
Okay.
And it was very pissing contest.
Yeah, right.
So essentially he went through and stole so many masterpieces and just took them for his own private collection, which is so wild. Whereas Hitler was stealing it to show in a gallery, this guy was stealing it to just have in his house.
Okay.
Yeah. And when you see him, he's like this old looking guy, kind of general, just weird. You just go, you are the quintessential, in my mind, evil man.
Villainous. Yeah.
He stole all of this artwork, and they found, when the war was starting to trickle, to end, he was trying to get all of this artwork and stuff out of his house into a train to move to his secondary home.
Okay.
And they caught this train and it was like filled to the brim with art. But he had stolen one of Raphael's pieces called Portrait of a Man. And this became like a really famous piece, but I guess it became more famous because we still don't know where that piece of art is.
Yeah,
so,
right.
Yeah, so well, yeah, I know. It could be sitting in someone's attic right now.
Probably.
But yeah, whether he destroyed it, he's put it somewhere else, but he like this one piece of art, we recovered all of this other art, but this one piece we can't find within his collection that they know they had.
Where did it go?
Do you have it in your house right now?
Portrait of a Man.
Portrait of a Man. They believe it might also have been a self-portrait and like he hadn't done any self-portraits before. So potentially that was like the only self-portrait that this artist had created.
Is there any documentation of this art?
Yes.
So you can see it if you wanted to.
If you wanted to. We just can't show you right now. Obviously, Göring wasn't the only one with ambitions. Hitler himself had a dream. He wanted to create the world's largest museum.
Pizza.
You know what? All Hitler wanted to do was make a really big pizza.
Wanted in that Guinness Book of Records.
He wanted to create the world's largest museum in his hometown of Linz in Austria. So to house his collection, he stashed priceless works in a salt mine in Altreis, Austria. And they were masterpieces by Vermeer, Michelangelo, Rembrandt, heaps and heaps.
All our mates.
The top dogs. So they had been hidden there all through the war. Towards the end of the war, once Hitler had gotten into his bunker and was like giving out orders from his little safety bunker, he kind of gave this order, which was called the Nero Decree. So the Nero Decree was the final act of desperation from him, I guess. It essentially said, if you are in charge of this mines or this area, you must destroy the art that is in those mines. Bomb the mines and get rid of every piece of art that we've stolen.
Wait, what? Why?
Because he knew he was losing.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So he's in his bunker. He's about to.
I can't have it. No one can.
Yeah.
He doesn't. He's
want
about to do his
He's an
cyanide.
only child.
About to do his cyanide pill with the lady.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he's an only child, and he said, "You know what? I don't want to share my toys."
No. Yeah. Classic Hitler.
Oh God, Hitler! Can you get any worse?
Yeah.
So he essentially said, "Get rid of everything."
Yep.
At this point, his crew of people were kind of like, "All right, you've lost the plot, mate. We are
just realizing this."
just like, hang on, crazy.
Is Hitler being a bit weird lately?
I don't know if you know this, but Hitler seems to be.
I think we might be the bad guys.
I think we've taken it a bit too far. You know what? All the other stuff, fine, but this getting rid of all the art, final straw. They were kind of like, oh, this is probably a bit too far, even for you, Hitler. So, because he was in his bunker, he didn't know that people weren't following through with these orders.
Yeah.
He wanted to blow everything up. A lot of the Nazis were like, terrible idea, we're not going to do this. However, there was one Nazi leader or lieutenant who was near the Austrian mine where Hitler had kept all of his main art, and he was a true through and through to the end. He believed in Hitler. So he said, all right.
Ride or die.
Yeah, he was a ride or die. He was jumping off that cliff, Thelma and Louise style. So he said, all right, he ordered his men to plant 6 bombs in this mine and blow the whole thing up. So this is like the most precious of precious things. But his men double-crossed him. And they said, yeah, sure, we'll plant these 6 bombs into this mine. What they did was they only planted 1 bomb, which was at the entrance. So when the bomb went off, it looked like they'd blown the whole mine up.
Yeah, who's to know?
But they'd actually only bombed the entrance.
Yeah, right.
So this guy went away being like, did my job, Hitler. You're welcome. And they were like, someone's going to find this stuff. So, A-okay. And the monuments men did arrive. They did recover this treasure trove of artworks. And it included some of the greatest artworks that still are shown in museums and things today. So it's interesting that we could have lost all of that history so quickly. So this is kind of where we're going to leave the Monuments Men. They spent years and years recovering work and returning it to its rightful owners.
Yeah.
But this was their kind of last big find within that war movement.
Once you do that, you kind of like, that's our finale.
That's our finale. The Monuments Men saved thousands of pieces of art, but even today, I guess the story isn't over. Many pieces are still missing.
I know, how juicy.
I know. So they're scattered across the globe. Some could be sitting in museums.
Or still in the earth somewhere.
So, yeah, start digging, guys.
Start digging now.
Get out there, get your shovel and dig down as
you
far
might
as you can.
come across the perfect man. What's it called?
The boy with the
Portrait
shoe.
of a man.
Portrait of a man.
Yeah.
The boy with the shoe. Could be in an attic. Maybe grandma's got one.
Yeah.
She said, I got this off my mum.
Yeah.
You know what it was? It's a bloody Van Gogh.
Wow.
We just don't know. So it's an ongoing mystery. There has been, I think it's about 50 or 60 years like after the fact, after this like case has been made, because it went to the Nuremberg trials. All of this kind of art being stolen got attributed and put in with the Nuremberg trials. It didn't make such a kind of buzz because there was so many other like atrocities.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were so
Atrocities
many
works.
bad things happening.
Yeah, atrocities.
There were so many bad things happening that it's kind of like pushed to the side. So they think that some of these pieces might turn up like after the fact, potentially, once that kind of statute of limitations runs out.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see if we get to see any of these missing pieces.
Keep your eyes
Keep your
peeled,
eyes
everyone.
peeled. But yeah, that's the story of the Monuments Men.
Fascinating. How much art had to do with that whole period of time.
And how obsessed with art Hitler was.
Yeah.
You just don't think about it.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, there was other things that he was doing that kind of overshadowed that a bit, I guess.
yeah. But
Yeah.
just he really loved art and he really just wanted it all.
Yeah. So peculiar. This is a peculiar man.
Yeah. Let's hope we never see one of him again. Oh.
Not to that extent, but there are, anywho, let's not go down that road.
We're not doing politics too much this year. That's the Monuments Men. And there's a movie. Shout out. I'm going to leave references to articles because I'm going to get good at this year. I'm going to leave references to articles that I read around this. So from history.com and there's a documentary called Raiders of the Lost Ark. No, sorry, Raiders of the Lost Art. I like that word.
Clever.
I said, ha.
Aha.
There's a documentary which talks about that. It's
That
very...
would have been a perfect name for this episode,
I know,
FYI.
and I really wanted
But
to
we
call...
can't now.
We
We'll
can't
think
now.
of something else. We'll think of something hilarious to call our Hitler episode.
I'll leave little links in the show notes, so if you wanted to check them out, you can.
That was so framed, that whole story. That was very just on par.
That was the most framed episode we've ever done. Kicking off season 2, I was like, I've got to do a typical art heist.
It was fascinating, and I didn't know any of this stuff.
It's a big part of history that we just don't think about sometimes. And so many times in war do art crimes happen and we just don't think about it.
Absolutely.
Because there's so much other shit going on.
There's so much other shit going on. The
So-
art is so like one of a kind. It's expensive. It's like you get money for it. Yeah, wowzers.
And you think like had Hitler succeeded in getting rid of all of this art, there would have been a lot that was lost in that period. So it's interesting that we were lucky enough to be able to stop that from happening and
well, I'm just
continue
glad
on.
that they sabotaged him.
Even his own men.
Yeah, his own men. Just bombing the entrance.
Yeah, so smart.
Very smart.
I like it.
Yeah. They
Smart.
probably did a lot of other bad things.
Yeah,
but I
let's
like,
not think too.
I like the fact that they were like, you know what? I'm over this.
Yeah.
I'm not taking orders from this guy anymore. Let's just bomb the front of it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
hope for the best. But
Yeah.
that's season 2, episode 1, Joel.
Fascinating. Very, very interesting.
Well,
Can't wait to talk to people about this even.
all right. Well, thank you for listening.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for sticking around for season 2.
Season 2. Come over and see us on the old Instagram and TikTok if that's still around.
It will be for us.
It will be for us, America.
Maybe not Americans.
Yeah, sorry. Apparently Trump's into TikTok now though, so maybe
He extended it like 90 days or something like that. I don't know. I don't know what's going on, Steph. I don't know.
And I don't
Particularly care.
care to know.
No.
So yeah, if you're on socials, come talk to us.
Yeah, come chat to us. If you've got anything, like any ideas or like any stories that you come across that you're like, oh, this would be good for these guys to talk about.
Let us know.
Let us know.
DM us. We'll
Yeah.
slide into our
Engage.
DMs. Come on.
But no, it's good to be back. Feels good.
Feels good.
Feels good. Back in
Back in the habit.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see you next time.
Fiddly do.
Goodbye.
Bye.